like I say, the LS Shipyard. It was called the LS Shipyard, not Harlem and Wolff. It was called LS and or Lucifer Star, basically. Um, and then there was a French shipyard, which was LC or something like that. I think there was LS and LC shipyard, and one of them was, that's right, LS and then LC, and LC was combat ships, and that's what the French yard was, and the French were working there until the black people went in there and they tried to get all these guns and weapons made, and they were they're manufacturing guns out of there and selling them. And some of the people who got killed or were getting killed just bought the weapons. They would sell them to anyone, mostly the black people. They were just giving them out for free to black people, and that was basically Vietnam and the black people and how the black people got weapons. And pretty much they were just going around killing and trying to do this world takeover with pops. And basically where the Bloods and the Crips got all their firepower from was basically the LC shipyard, which is French, which is just above the LS shipyard. Anyway, 1930s on 1960s or so, with Nixon and everybody else. That's where that's where the Republicans and the aristocrats were getting all their guns and stuff. Was the LC shipyard, just above the Belfast shipyard, which is LS. Anyway, it's French and Irish, basically shipyards, pretty much. Anyway, one of them had nuclear power plant technology, and I had people up there working, and of course they kidnapped and tortured everyone, and basically took it over and did Anton, the black person. So anyway, that's where all the guns were coming from there. Of course, I had also had gun manufacturers before in Birmingham, so I had my other real gun manufacturers, but the LC shipyard, I think, was warships or something like that, or some warships. Anyway, I don't know. It depends. I think the LC was warships, but that was a long time ago. Like most of my warships were long since built by the time 1920 rolls around. Like they're from like 1800 into 1910, 1920. So they're already in existence before like 1936 or so. I mean the Titanic and all those shipyards, like they're ancient history by the time Mr. Brown and Harlem and Wolff come along. Those are like 1940s to 1960s people. So anyway, with a little bit of action, back in the 1910 era. But they didn't get to the Belfast shipyard, LS shipyard, or the L whatever. That's like 1940, 1930. They're like 20 years old, and they're like ramming the Titanic and ramming the White Star ships, pretty much. And they just go in, they shoot their way on to the bridge, and then they grab the ship, and then they try and ram my steamers, basically. And they're basically just trying to tear up the place. That's what the Bloods and the Crips were doing back in the 1920s. So anyway, yeah. So they're just tearing up the place. Yeah, anyway, black captains like running on. Anyway, if you're a Blood or a Crip, you can feel proud about that. You killed a whole bunch of Irish, or basically shot their way. They would just pull their guns. We didn't. We started restricting guns, so no guns on the ship except for the security. But basically, they shot they would run up the gangplank and shoot their way past the two guards at the gangplank, and then try and get on the bridge, and then they would try and one guy would go down to the engine room and try and turn on the engine, but the black people really didn't know how to run the steam engines. They eventually did figure out, or they put the gun to the head of the engineer, basically, and said, "Turn it on!" And it's basically the black guy saying, "Turn on," and basically one guy's up there on the bridge going, "Ding ding," and then they just rammed the Titanic and stuff, or one of my other ships, and it says, "Pong," and my captain was like, just, goodbye. And it was just a smaller ship too. They just captured one of the other smaller ships that was going to be steaming out. And meanwhile, the Prussians were like, "Ah!" And the cops were like, the Irish people, the Irish are like, grabbing guns. I mean, they got real used to it around the Belfast shipyard. I mean, there were guns everywhere. Because the Belfast got real used to the black people. It's like, no, you're not. like every single day for a while, the black people would like do a hit, and then they would say, "Oh, it's the Irish people, it's IRA, it's IRA." It's not really the IRA; it's actually the black people attacking the white people, and just trying to take down LS basically. And they don't even know who LS is. Me. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, and then they eventually do get aircraft, and then they try and they start carpet bombing. Eventually, Nixon John McClane or John McCain, and basically they don't really have aircraft. They have access to a base. They take over a black base. I give the black people a base of their own, and they basically use that base to do bombing runs and do their own little war. And over a year or two, they bomb a whole bunch of cities. So, and we actually get anti-aircraft and actually, I believe, shoot them out of the sky, and they lose like quite a few black people that way. Like I say, for a while there wasn't anybody that was black in Africa over the age of like 13 because they kept on giving them guns and telling them to go rape and kill. And then some citizen would go, they got really used to it, you know. So, and it was basically just the black people. So everyone got used to the black people basically trying to kill them or rob them. Like I say, that's why there wasn't really restriction between black and white. They would just watch the black people because, you know, and sure enough, the black person would go pull out a gun and go and try and rob because the Bloods and the Crips, Pops was like rob every store, rob everything, you know, and basically so they would pull a gun and they would go to rob the store, you know, and so the Irish just got used to it and they would just go, you know, and so did the British. It's like, oh, there he goes, you know, headshot right in the back of the head, you know, and there'd be two black guys out in the outside or something like that, and they would start opening up with their Tommy guns or something like that. I'm not exactly sure about the details. I just know that the Irish were having a problem with the black people basically, and pretty much Mr. Brown. He was shitting. He had his people line up to shit inside of the water system for the Belfast shipyard, for the whole town. They went up there and they put a toilet over a hole, and then every single one of them would just shit in the hole, you know, trying to make people sick. So that's what the Bloods and the Crips were doing, and Pop's people. Anyway, so if you're a black person, you can be proud about that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and then of course they wanted to nuke everyone, or they carpet bombed the Forbidden Palace and everywhere else. I think they were trying to take out the nuclear power plant. I think it was a thorium nuclear power plant underneath there or something. It wasn't exactly a big one, and it was well protected. It was like 3,000 feet underground or something like that. I think we were using the thermal siphon. That's right, yeah. Yeah, it was 3,000 feet or 2,000 feet underground, and it would use the thermal siphon because, you know, it didn't need a pump that way. And it was really old. You know, it didn't need a pump that way. It would just pump, you know, the hot water would go up and go into the filter pond, and then it would go around, and then on the other side we had another pipe coming down, so it would just auto cool all day. You didn't even need to pump the water. You know, it just, you know, it auto cooled the reactor all day, and you just had to open the valves and close the valves, and it just went out, and it just went through the manifold system. So anyway, and there was a small leak one time, but not really serious. It was just slightly more radioactive water, and they found the leak and fixed it, so it wasn't a big deal. Anyway, they carpet bombed the reactor trying to get it to go off, but it's 3,000 feet underground, and, you know, it was well protected under like granite or something like that. Anyway, so they weren't really able to do any real damage to it. So anyway, and that's what Red Tails was actually a female crew, I think, like that. It was I don't know, something like that. Whatever, and it was black people basically just trying to demean females more or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't actually black. You know, I think it was actually like a female thing. It was basically something they did. I don't know, into whatever of females. But anyway, Nixon, JFK, and Mr. Black and Mr. Brown did all this stuff that was really sick and disgusting to basically demean all of human life or history. So, you know, tearing down anything nice, blowing up anything nice, and doing all these things like classifying females as red tails, basically, you know, and stuff like that. So it actually meant more that. So anyway, I didn't realize what they had done or what they were doing, you know, they were trying to demean women and demean the life and existence pretty much. And were just causing a problem for everyone. So over a couple hundred years, this goes on, you know. Anyway, all I can say is I don't know. I mean, black people and Bloods and Crips, I mean, you can deal with your own crazy existence. I mean, that's what your leaders were telling you to do, and that's what they were doing behind your back. So, I mean, I don't really know. Oh, yeah, and the videos.